Assalamu alaikum, good evening and welcome to Talking Point. I'm your host, Syed Niaz Ahmed. With me in the studios is Dr. Kanan Purkayastha, an eminent scientist, advisor to the British government. He lectures at various universities and writes profusely in scientific and philosophical journals. He is also an executive committee member of the Oxford Philosophical Society, where he contributes to a number of publications. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you today?
Yes, I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. Great to have you. We have had you before, but this is your first visit to our newest studios.
Yes.
Thanks to COVID.
Thank you.
And the lack of it.
Yeah.
We want to talk about climate and climate change, you see. But usually when we talk about something which is innocent, non-controversial, it's always the weather of the year, the good old days, you see. So let's just start with what is weather and what is climate?
Okay. Weather is basically what we get. If we say weather, weather is what we get, and that is basically the short term, the change pattern. And climate is what we expect to get.
So what we get and what we want.
Yeah. So what we expect, that is from our modeling and other scientific methods, when there is a long-term change in the pattern of the weather, that can become a climate change,
Right.
like precipitation, change of surface temperatures, and also weather pattern that is long-term, when they're long-term changing. And another side of this weather and climate is weather is generally within the regional, but climate is global, So this is a fundamental, difference. But Lawrence, a scientist Lawrence, who is actually developed the chaos theory, he just simply said that weather is what we get and climate is what we expect.
So weather is the short term and climate is the long term.
Yeah, long terms in the global
Things, you see. So what is the climate change? What are we talking about? Climate change and the difference between global warming and climate change.
Yes. When we say global warming, previously people used this term to understand the climate change, and now they use both, say, the global warming and climate change, because global warming is coming fast,
Right.
and then its outcome is the climate change. Now when you say global warming, it is actually, in practical term, it's a mean surface temperature. The global surface temperature, this mean surface temperatures giving us the global warming, And with this mean surface temperature change, you can see the precipitation pattern changing, you can see the level of the humidity, temperature rise, our atmospheres, they are behaving differently, even though we take account of the Earth's, the circular, paths, and also when we thinking about the sun energy that is coming to Earth, So taking account of all those things, we see a difference. And that difference is coming from the change of the global mean surface temperature.
Right.
And that temperature is rising.
And what are the causes of this rise of surface temperature?
There are many causes. Now, there is a general consensus about this. The one is, the sun and other solar activity that can have an effect on our surface temperature, but that is not what we see now. Now what we see, a hockey stick graph, the temperature change, and that temperature change is very much related to some of the molecule in a molecular level, that carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, those who are things that we say greenhouse gas. And the level of greenhouse gas in our atmosphere is rising, and it is rising because of the extensive use of the fossil fuel. So fossil fuel is considered one of the things, but people go back in
Can you just explain, because this term is used across the board, fossil fuel. Are we talking about coal? Are we talking about wood? Are we talking about gas? Are we talking about
we're talking
petrol?
about this, coal, gas, petroleums, those are the things we are extracting from the ground.
Yes.
So these are the fossil fuel, the normal wood later on becoming a fossil fuel.
Yes.
They are transforming.
Charcoal.
Yeah, charcoal. These are all becoming the fossil fuel. They are living in the ground, and then we are extracting them, and we are using it, and it is generating the carbon dioxide, all greenhouse gases, and those greenhouse gases, they are actually behaving in such a manner that can cause global warming, and that manner is they are actually stopping the infrared radiation that is going to atmosphere. It's supposed to go straight into the atmosphere, but because of this extra layer of these greenhouse gases, they are hindering those sort of things, and they are returning back to the earth again. Yeah. And that is causing the
surface temperature.
Temperature is rising, and though sometimes you will find that it's a misnomer that we are saying in greenhouse gas.
Yeah.
But if you compare these phenomena with the greenhouse, then a little bit different. Greenhouse is the convection phenomena, but convection phenomena so that the heat cannot escape. So you are developing a greenhouse. But in case of climate change and greenhouse, that greenhouse is actually, it is preventing the infrared radiation going to the atmosphere. Another day, when I'm giving a lecture at the UW in the university about this.
Where is this university?
University of West of England in Bristol.
Bristol.
And then there are a lot of postgraduate students, they are asking why carbon dioxide is getting blame. Why not other molecule like nitrogen, as for example. Now this blame started when Eunice Foote, one of the American female scientists in roughly 1830s, she did some sort of experiment. She put an air in a jar and carbon dioxide in another jar, and when she heated up these two jars, and she has found this carbon dioxide jar is becoming much more hot than the air jar. So this is the first time people realize there is something going on there. At that time they don't know the science behind it, So that's the first time they know. Now we know science, the detailed science, the fundamental science behind these things. In atmosphere we have got 78% nitrogen in this atmosphere, but it is not a greenhouse gas, because this nitrogen molecule is a linear molecule, and that molecule is vibrating in a linear way, in a very rapidly it's vibrating. So that rapid, there is a fundamental nature, you will see the fundamental laws you will find in nature, that something vibrating very quickly, something vibrating very slowly. In carbon dioxide, it is not a linear molecule. It is like this sort of triangle shaped molecule. So it cannot vibrate quickly. It can vibrate slowly. So this molecule likes something which is slow back. So infrared radiation, which is a low frequency radiation, if you look at the infrared light, you will see it is vibrating like that. It's a very low frequency, long wavelength. When you look at the UV radiation, you will find its frequency is very, very high, it is vibrating like that.
Yeah, ultraviolet, yes.
Now, nitrogen molecule like that, because the nitrogen also vibrating very quickly. So nitrogen want this quick, the thing that is vibrating. So nitrogen molecule can absorb this UV radiation. It likes UV radiation. And carbon dioxide, because slow, it absorbs infrared radiation. And that's the reason when Earth is reflecting, Earth is getting sunlight from the atmosphere, absorbing and then radiating it. When it is radiating, it's radiating infrared radiation, and that the infrared radiation, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, this sort of molecule, they are absorbing and then hindering those energy that going to the atmosphere. They can't go to the atmosphere, you know. So it is returning back and making surface temperature rise. So there's the greenhouse effect phenomena that can causing the global warming and changing everything, you know, surface temperature rising, you know, there's sea surface temperature is rising, and it has been found that the sea becoming warming from 0 to 700 meter up to that level of sea. And if you go to the depth, warming, and it is triggering a lot of things, you know, jet streams and all other things that can causing a big storm, and you know, so you are getting weather from that global phenomena. You are getting a local level, you know, cyclone and all other things. So there's the science behind this. What is this happening now? You know, because our Earth is very, very, you know, it calls a Goldilocks zones or something like that. It's very suitable for the life can flourish, you know, because it has got only 0.00 some percentage of carbon dioxide, only 78% is nitrogen and oxygen. We need nitrogen for a lot of, you know, life in the soil and other things, and we've got oxygen 21%. But as soon as we are using fossil fuel, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide going to atmosphere, and their global warming potential, that is also IPCC, they have also calculated all sort of thing. Like, for example, if you think carbon dioxide global you know, warming potential, GWP we call, if global warming potential of carbon dioxide is 1, then the methane is 23. And then nitrous oxide.
All this global warming, the sea that you said from 0 to 700, the warming of the sea surface, will it have an influence on the sea life?
Yes. It has got a serious influence on sea life. A lot of plankton, phytoplankton, and a lot of you know, animals are destroying. Not only this, they are trying to move from one place to another, and you sometimes see the whales came your can't, you know, sea beaches, you know, they are because they are trying to move from one place to another, and when they are trying to move, they end up here and there.
On land somewhere.
End up there. And in Australia, there are a lot of phytoplanktons and other things, you know, which is essential for the sea life, you know. They are destroying because of the temperature rise, because when the temperature is rising, it is causing a lot of other things, you know, like a lot of carbon dioxide is going to the sea. It is mixing with the calcium becomes calcium carbonate. Again, they are destroying, and then carbon dioxide is coming out from the sea. You know, it's supposed to absorb a lot of, you know, carbon dioxide. You know, generally sea water can absorb a lot of carbon dioxide, and instead of that, it is again coming out. So that carbon cycle is going on, and it is affecting the atmosphere. And nitrous oxide mainly, it is such a, you know, the inert molecule for troposphere. That is our troposphere, you know, where we are living, this troposphere, you know, roughly 10 to 15 kilometers atmosphere, troposphere. But nitrous oxide is going straight to the stratosphere. So when we are doing something, we are adding some fertilizer and other things in an agricultural land. So the nitrogen cycle is generating nitrous oxide, and that nitrous oxide is going straight to the stratosphere, and it is actually affecting the ozone layer there. Yeah. It is reacting with the ozone in the atmosphere, and that is causing
the ozone layer and the
ozone layer. It's an ozone hole.
In one sentence, can you describe which human activity is most harming this climate problem?
Yeah, at this moment there is a, if we look at our contribution from the different economic sector, so roughly 52 billion ton of carbon dioxide equivalent per year is going to atmosphere per year, 52 billion ton. But that 52 billion ton we call carbon dioxide equivalent, ECO2. And ECO2 means we are actually adding up all greenhouse gas contribution, and we are putting the statistics like that. So out of these 52 billion tons of carbon dioxide, the contribution is much more from the making things. You are making things. This sector, like steel, cement, so this sector is contributing to your 52 billion, 26%. That is the most.
But we need that for human life, isn't it?
Yeah, we also need that, and that's the reason we also need. It is not easy to move back, from there to do something.
We have become used to driving cars, riding the trains.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. Actually, we are but it has been, done, all calculation done that 26% is coming from there, and then. From your electricity use, plugging things, you are plugging things, that is roughly 21% roughly.
From electricity?
Yeah, from electricity, plugging in, all sorts of plugging in.
Have the appliances but don't plug in, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Dr. Kannan, how can people reduce the risk of climate change? And the added question is, what are the benefits of taking such an action to our life?
Actually, in order to reduce the risk of the climate change, you have to consider two things. One is the mitigation, and another is the adaptation. Now, mitigation is actually you are solving the problem at the source that generating a lot of greenhouse gas in the atmosphere, that is changing our atmospheric condition through our intervention, what we are doing, our activities, our economic activities, like electricity generation, the way we are generating electricity, where we are making the things, where we are growing things, the agricultural sectors, because agricultural sectors is contributing 22%, of this greenhouse gas, keeping our house warm or cooling, that is also contributing to the greenhouse gases like 7%, and getting around, a lot of traveling we are doing, it is contributing 16%. So this sort of economic activity in a broader sense, we need to revisit all those economic activity, and it is not an easy thing in terms of mitigation. So to solve all those problems overnight, it is not possible. This is a long-term plan, and that is the reason the last COP26, where I was present in a COP26 meeting in Glasgow, where actually the UK government strategies to reduce the emission by 2050. The target is net zero emission by 2050. So that is the target UK government is working on, and that is committed by other nations as well to achieve that net zero emission strategy. So in order to reduce, to mitigate the problem, but it is not possible quickly. So therefore, adaptation. So adaptation, you have to adapt your lifestyles to survive, because there is every possibility you will find that the sea level is rising, and then as a result of that you have to develop some of the housing strategy where you can survive in water, you know. So this sort of adaptation, you might change your food habit for adapting within the changing environment, because probably food shortage, it is already predicting.
Can people change their habits? See, the awareness is there.
Yeah.
But can people just change their habits because the government wants to? They don't seem to understand that this is our life.
Yeah, that is.
This is the life of people living on this planet.
Yeah.
But they think it is the responsibility of the government. And some of the governments think that it is the responsibility of the Western governments to finance our projects. So give us money so that we can use it to reduce the greenhouse gases, the make the temperature lower. What do? We have to live, we have to survive, we have to drive. We cannot use petrol, but we'll plug in our electric car into the socket, see, and what happens there? You said, again, we are causing the same thing.
Yeah.
Probably at a different levels.
Yeah.
The emissions are there.
Yeah, that's the thing. Different, it is not a overnight, situation. That's the reason here in UK government
we have already seen many nights have gone and passed.
Yeah, it is not easy things, but also it is true that because of the environmental, cause, a lot of civilization historically
have disappeared.
Yeah, disappeared, collapsed. The civilization like Maya civilizations and several other towns and cities also gone underwater.
Yes.
Even in our UK, in Kent, 8,000 years ago, there is sudden sea level, rise happened because of this Arctic, the big chunk of ice gone underwater, and as a result of the sea level rise,
sea level went up,
and a lot of land gone underwater. So these sort of things is coming, and it is already happening. Some other places around the world, like Marshall Island, like Tuvalu, like Kiribati, they are going underwater, and all these evidence we can see now from the satellite data, because NASA is publishing all the time the satellite data. We also see from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administrations, they publish daily the carbon dioxide emission to the atmosphere, which is called the killing curve. The killing curve is suggesting that our carbon dioxide use, the emission, is rising all the time. So, for example, yesterday, the carbon dioxide level emitted in the atmosphere is 423, 423 ppm, parts per million. So daily recording is going on. But
so what was yesterday and what was day before yesterday?
But 1 month ago, it was 416, 17, like that. So it is rising, this, and the cause of this rising is mainly from the industrial emissions, the use of fossil fuels and all other things. It is not just the natural phenomena, because sometimes people say the climate change is a hoax. There's people sometimes say there are a lot of climate denier. They said this, but if we compare the extra addition of the global warming since the pre-industrial level and now, it is related to the use of the fossil fuel and generation of the atmosphere. Now there are a lot of discussion going on in terms of the mitigations as well, and there are politics there as well. On the one hand science, on the other hand is the politics. For example, the fossil fuel industry, they are prepared to use hydrogen as an alternative, source of energy, but they want to use hydrogen keeping their existing infrastructure. They want to keep and use hydrogen, and they want a carbon capture and storage technology for that, because even if they use hydrogen, there is a carbon dioxide generated, and they can do the carbon capture and storage. The alternative proposal is you can use the hydrogen gas, but instead of using or carbon capture and storage technology, you can use the green electricity for splitting hydrogen from water. You can use water to generate hydrogen gas, and in order to do that, you can use the renewable energy instead of using your fossil fuel, So there are tension going on at this moment. It is going on at this moment that we can see hydrogen is a nice source of energy people can use, and in space industry they are using hydrogen gas in a rocket. They are using hydrogen as an energy.
Do you feel that there are commercial interests there that control a lot of activities?
Yes, there are a lot of commercial interest now to generating the renewable energy. So there are a lot of wind power, hydropower. Even in London, if you think, we are expanding continuously this, electric car and other things, and trying to find out the ways and means to generate that electricity from renewable sources, and that's the reason there is a plan to establish a renewable energy related grid systems, that is also underway. You will find that renewable energy is coming from the, electric car you can use, but the source of energy is coming from the renewable energy. That is already underway, but the problem there is a technological problem. One of the problem is the storage, because you can't get wind power all the time.
Right.
Wind not all the time there, so you can get. So what you have to do, when there is a wind, when there is a solar energy, you can generate those, and then you can store it,
battery,
store it somewhere. That storage is a costly exercise, and still there work going on, there research going on to find out the alternative solution for it. As soon as we get the alternative solution, then renewable energy will capture this market, So that will
well, is solar power, solar energy, is the ultimate solution as we see today?
Yeah, if you can store it, you have to have a storage, because some countries got have plenty of solar energy.
Yes.
Some countries don't have such solar energy. So that is another thing. Already IPCC has considered that. That radiation flux, that coming, the solar flux or radiation flux that coming from the sun or other body, celestial object, that solar energy is not available all the time, and also that solar energy require some sort of cell, in a solar panel, and that technology, this lead, platinum, this sort of solar chips, you can say, these sort of small solar things. This is also a shortage within the world, because some countries got lots, some countries don't have, so there is a tension there as well in a solar industry. But there is it's a potential, if you get a lot of solar energy, then you can, like I've seen in Morocco, they're trying to build a lot of solar panel so that they can, from the Sahara, they can collect a lot of things. In Kuwait, for they have already started working on the solar energy, so that world can.
So are we? We are, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like a solar power. I mean, these companies that are advertising and knocking on your doors, they are coming up like mushrooms.
Yeah. So there are a lot of things that are coming, if in your roof, in the building, you can use the solar panel.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that when we come back after this short break, inshallah. And there's a very interesting question that I want to ask you. What is the climate change again? And when the temperature is rising and things are becoming cold. Dr. Kanan, we are talking about climate change and the warming up of the entire globe that is causing so many problems to us. See. And we are all trying to do our bit and try to understand the problem and solve it. inshallah. Now there's a question somebody has sent me. Why are we experiencing cold weather, a snowfall, if the weather is warming?
Yes.
Shouldn't it be hot?
Yeah. No, it is the weather does not behave like that, because when you think about the planetary scale, you think about the whole things, you will find that there is a fluctuation going on all the time. You will experience the hot sometime, you will experience cold weather. Even if you look back the last 400,000 years of history, the temperature history, you will find that we have seen the glaciation, we call the glacial period or glaciation period, it is fluctuating like that. Sometimes you will find that the temperature is going down, temperature is going up, and that long term, that phenomena is related not only our current interference, but also related to the all atmospheric and the solar phenomena as well, sunspot and the behavior of the radiation flux in the atmosphere, because there are a couple of things you need to think about when you think about the radiative forcing. The radiative forcing is one of the concepts that used in climate science, that sometimes you will find that you are feeling the cold temperature, even you are expecting hot, but you are feeling the cold temperature. Now, you can feel the cold temperature if you've got a lot of sulfur dioxide, because sulfur dioxide can reflecting a lot of the things in the atmosphere, and you'll feel the cooler, the conditions in the atmosphere, because it is reflecting a lot of sunlight in the atmosphere instead of absorbing. And also not only this, nowadays a lot of particulate matter surrounding us. That particulate matter, sometimes they reflect things in the atmosphere. That is the current phenomena, but historically the glacial period comes and goes. We have experienced 3 ice age, if you look at it. Yeah, and then those 3 ice ages, the scientists already analysis. They have done the ice core analysis from these 3 ice ages. Went to Antarctica, went to polar region. They collect the this ice from the ground and then analyze those ice, and they found the ratio of isotope, oxygen on the ice. Generally, when there is a cold, you will find the oxygen 18, the isotope is much higher in ice, but when there is a hot, there is the oxygen 16. So these are the fluctuation, and then they compare this, and they have found the sun cycle also affecting those sort of things. So natural variation is there, and natural variation sometimes causing the variations of the temperature in the atmosphere. But last 200 years, what we see actually the temperature is rising. It is just like that, exponential way. It is rising, this temperature, which is not the case.
To the increase in the population of the world, because now we have 8 billion people in the world.
See? Yeah, so that means the population is increasing, our use of the resources increasing, so these are the things, rising, and that is affecting actually. So that is, generally, we call it, Arkwright legacy in this country. It is not the global. In this country, when we think about global warming, we call Arkwright legacy, because Arkwright is a person who is wig maker, and in 18th centuries, like roughly 1750s, in Derbyshire, he set up first the industry, and then industrial
making wicks,
making wicks, and and then industrial revolution started, and that's the reason that Derbyshire, that region, become now UNESCO World Heritage Site, because that is the point when industrial revolution started, and everything started. Then you will find James Watt and other people. So that's the way industrial revolution started, and that is contributing to the climate change. That is the starting point of the industrial, the human contribution to the atmosphere. But in the past, we don't know that. We have no knowledge about it. We don't know that the carbon dioxide, we have to blame carbon dioxide because we have no knowledge at the time. This knowledge, all those photochemistry things that I have explained about, these are all the new things, and that's the reason we are, in the past, this sort of thing happened, and people started running from one place to another. We have seen they're going from one place to another, their food habits changing, they are hunting things in another region. So the glacial things came, so that they want to move another place. Even today, Siberia and that region, they want global warming. They don't want to do something about mitigation and adaptations, because they like global warming.
Well, one last point that I wanted to talk to you about was that Bangladesh is going to present its budget 2023-24, and right now Bangladesh is experiencing cyclones and floods on its Bay of Bengal beaches. Now, what do you think Bangladesh should be doing to handle this environmental problem?
Bangladesh, the top priority for Bangladesh is adaptation.
Adaptation.
Yeah, because mitigation is not a quickest solution, but adaptation, how we will adapt. And adaptation, some of the areas I have heard in Khulna region, some of the adaptation has started, and they are doing very good thing. And I've seen the work.
Can you explain what is adaptation in your?
Yeah, basically in adaptation, they are trying to how they can survive when this sea level is rising, water is coming, flooding, and how they can survive.
Preparing themselves.
Yeah, preparing themselves. And World Bank also, their last report that they have published in October 2022, on that report they also refer that there are good things is going on in terms of adaptation, but it needs more. And simultaneously also it is important to think about the growth, the green growth. That is, they need to invest more money in the green growth. And now when we say green growth, it is not just growth that can contribute to the climate change mitigation. Rather, the direction of this growth is very important. For example, I can say, if you adopt taking one-time glass, and then throw away that glass, you want to one-time glass, and it will contribute to your GDP. That means your growth will increase, but it will affect climate, environmental effect. If you go for, the glass that you can use again and again, then your GDP will decrease, but
climate will be
it will be climate. So, at this moment, the whole budget of Bangladesh is very much focused on GDP, gross domestic product, increasing.
Right.
That is not that direction is wrong.
To help the global warming.
No. So that direction need to adjust. I'm not saying the change, rather I will just say to adjust that. And the direction of green growth is more important than growth itself.
Right.
That is one of the things. There are income inequality in Bangladesh is increasing. It is rising slowly according to Gini coefficient. The Gini coefficient is one of the coefficients that calculate the human, inequality. It is increasing. Inequality 0 means everybody equal.
Yeah.
Inequality 1 means there is a high disparity between the populations, So that is one of the things need to think about, how to balance this sort of thing. Bangladesh is doing good.
Controlling the population help? The increase of population?
Yes, increase of population is another things, but there is a global, the things about the population. They're saying the populations is going towards such a manner that it will be plateau and then it will go down, the whole earth populations, So that is the long-term things, But at this moment, population is, Bangladesh populations and its inequality, how to adjust those sort of things. I already mentioned about one of my writing that instead of pulling people out of the river,
right,
rather go to the upstream.
Yep.
And think about
and make sure that they don't fall in.
They don't fall it, So
Right.
that sort of things, think about.
Despite the global warming and all that, we managed to have had very much a springy weather today, and hopefully tomorrow it will be another spring day.
Yeah.
Global warming is a fact of life, and we have to understand that it can't be brushed away under the carpet. We have to understand, we have to face. And as Dr. Kanan says that there are so many processes that we have to go through, and we will adapt our lifestyle, and just solar power is not the solution, it's not the panacea. We will meet again, inshallah, in a better world.